Tonight, is the Bahamian judiciary free from political interference? New on Our News Live at 7, the opening of the legal year on Grand Bahama puts independence in the spotlight. More than 100 Haitian nationals repatriated this morning as Haiti continues to grapple with humanitarian and security challenges. And a teen lands in hot water after allegedly bringing marijuana-laced snacks to school in North Eleuthera. We'll tell you what police are doing about it. And then in Our News at 7:30, a birthday party turns tragic, leaving a young boy injured. Now his family wants answers. Our News Live at 7 starts now. Welcome to Our News Live at 7. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Kendino Knowles. A Grand Bahama priest lashing out today, questioning if the judiciary is free from political interference. During his charge at the official opening of the legal year in Grand Bahama, Rector of Christ, the Pro-Cathedral of Christ, the King, Canon Norman Lightburn, pulling no punches, stressing the importance of judicial independence. Berthany McDermott gets us started tonight.
Rector of the Pro-Cathedral of Christ the King, Canon Norman Lightburn, levying a scathing review of the judiciary, questioning if it operates independently. His comments came during his charge at the opening of the legal year in Grand Bahama Friday morning.
Are you free of interference? Do you feel fettered? Can you carry out your responsibilities without fear of victimization or retaliation?
He also asked the room of lawyers and judges if they feel they are operating in a straitjacket. The judiciary is one of three arms of government that is expected to operate independently of the other arms. During his address, which garnered applause at times, Lightburn stressed the need for the judiciary to be strong, independent, and courageous.
We were also taught in social studies that they are co-equal. And my understanding of co-equal is none is more superior than the other.
In recent years, there were 3 trials that were termed political, 2 of which ended in acquittals. The PLP and political pundits say the trials were politically motivated. Lightburn suggested politicians oftentimes step outside their boundaries.
We live in a country, we can't run away from it. We live in a country where politicians believe very often that because they're in the House of Assembly, they have the authority to do almost anything.
But the Anglican priest reasons that no politician is above the law and says as we celebrate 50 years of independence, these are questions that must be answered. He doubled down, saying in 2023 the need for an independent judiciary is needed and called for better facilities.
In this, our 50th year of independence, our country deserves a competent, efficient, and independent judiciary. This will only become a reality, friends, when you are given the necessary tools to execute the duties for which you've been called.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
All right, thanks a lot, Berthany. And now to the story of a grandmother who is calling for help after she says her 4-year-old grandson, Carter Maycock, was struck by a vehicle on Palmetto Avenue. Levita Thurston says the accident happened during a birthday party at her home when her grandson was crossing the road, leaving him with 2 broken bones and a dislocated shoulder. She says she never heard back from the man who hit her grandson, and that's when she reached out to him.
I said, if you haven't killed before, you have the tendency to kill because you knocked down a 4-year-old child and you did not look back to see if he was okay or what was going on with him. His reaction to me and response was, I was waiting to see when I get some money to come and check little man out. I asked him, who asked you for any money? That is not a dog. Even if it was a dog, you should have turned back to check.
Thurston says she feels she's not getting help from the relevant authorities and claims the traffic report has her 4-year-old grandson listed as the person responsible for the accident, labeling him a careless pedestrian.
I'm asking the powers to be to bring justice for my grandson. He's a baby. If y'all doing him wrong at 4 years old, do you expect him to have any kind of trust in the justice system? Because he's going to grow up and he's going to know what happened. I'm going to tell him every detail.
Now, our Talia Hall has a full report on this incident, and more on the child's current condition. Be sure and stay tuned for that. It's coming up in Our News at 7:30. A teen girl is in hot water tonight after police say she allegedly brought and sold cookies infused with marijuana on a school campus in North Eleuthera. Preliminary reports say around 2:30 p.m. on Thursday, police were notified that 3 students who reportedly bought and consumed the infused cookies were not feeling well. The students complained of feeling lightheaded, nauseous, and dizzy and were taken to the local clinic for medical attention. Police say the 16-year-old girl who reportedly sold the drugs is assisting with the investigation. And police are searching for 3 suspects responsible for robbing a man of his vehicle, which contained an undisclosed amount of cash and a shotgun. The incident reportedly happening around 7:30 a.m. on Wednesday in the Fox Hill area. Police say the victim was approached and robbed of his black and red Kia Soul by 2 men who were armed with high-powered weapons after the duo exited a white Honda Civic. The suspects fled in the victim's car while being followed by the Honda Civic that was being driven by a 3rd man. Now, following the robbery, officers from the Fox Hill Division say they got a tip and headed to Treglon Avenue of Sandilands Village Road, where the vehicle was recovered shortly after 9 a.m. Police are actively investigating and are appealing to members of the public who may have information on this to contact them at 911-919 or Crime Stoppers at 328-TIPS. Still to come in our news, when will terminated gaming board employees get a date for reinstatement? New details tonight. And the Progressive Liberal Party has paid off the controversial Bermuda trip. The press secretary updates the media. And later we will tell you how Reverend C.B. Moss is doing days after he collapsed during Majority Rule Day celebrations. That's coming up when Our News returns. A Supreme Court judge has refused to fix another date for the reinstatement of 17 former gaming board employees who were made redundant over 4 years ago. The 17 employees were all terminated from the gaming board between October 2017 and February 2018. In February 2020, Senior Justice Indra Charles ordered the plaintiffs were entitled to reinstatement by June 30th, 2020. However, on June 10th that year, lawyers for the plaintiffs and defendants asked Charles to stay her order for reinstatement pending an appeal of her decision. But the gaming board withdrew its appeal on December 15, 2020. The court was not informed of the decision. There was a 2-year hiatus before plaintiffs asked the court to fix December 15, 2020 as the reinstatement date. However, Charles refused. She said, even at the date of the delivery of the judgment in February 2022, the court was concerned with the passage of time. Charles said an application should have been made to the court sooner, even as negotiations were ongoing. Meanwhile, a child was among 122 Haitian nationals repatriated this morning. Included in that number was 94 men and 37 women along with the boy. The repatriation comes after the Miami Herald reported there is no elected official in Haiti, and that includes no council members, mayor, or president. In October 2022, then Prime Minister Dr. Ariel Henry wrote to CARICOM calling for solidarity and requesting assistance to alleviate the deepening humanitarian, security, political, and economic crises there. The request came amid ongoing unrest in Haiti. And members of the Bahamas National Trust helping nab more than a dozen illegal migrants in Inagua. Police say a concerned citizen alerted them that a group of illegal migrants were observed in the area of the Bus Clark Harbor, which is 35 miles east of Matthewtown. Police worked along with those BNT members, searched the area, and arrested 14 men and 4 women. The group was transported to the Matthewtown police station and later handed over to the Department of Immigration for further investigations. All right, well, back in October, a trip to Bermuda by Prime Minister Philip Davis, former Prime Minister Perry Christie, and other government officials sparked some controversy as it was revealed that Davis and several cabinet ministers attended a political event. It was further revealed that this trip was paid for by the government. Well, yesterday, Press Secretary Clint Watson revealing the cost has been covered.
That's fully behind us. We're trying to finalize the total amount of that. I think it's close to, from the records that I've received, it's just under $60,000 in total for the entire thing.
And while one union is pleased with the signing of its industrial agreement, another says it's waiting for negotiations to begin. Jamila Mizik reports.
The Bahamas Public Services Union has been in a back and forth with government for months over stalled negotiations. BPSU President Kingsley Ferguson says while the union has had an introductory meeting with the government, they're still waiting to begin negotiations.
We received a communication from the government indicating that they would have submitted a final proposal. Could I suggest today that there's no finality in negotiations until we reach an agreement? And so we're very concerned.
And as for what's outstanding in the BPSU agreement,
whenever there is an industrial agreement, there is dialogue coming from both sides. And so we didn't have the opportunity the other trade unions would have had.
Ferguson adds there is another concern.
In our initial conversation, when the Prime Minister met with all trade unions, he indicated that he wanted to give a uniform increase. And so we were expecting that. When the proposals were forwarded, we found that we were at a disadvantage.
The BPSU president says what happens next will be determined by the consensus of the membership. Meanwhile, State Minister for the Public Service Pia Glover-Roll says despite the delays, they hope to sign an agreement soon.
On the 14th of December 2022, the BPSU would have received the final agreement for the Public Service General Workers Agreement. We subsequently got a response saying that the BPSU would like to come back to the table with our Labor Relations Unit. Our Labor Relations Unit responded. The holidays came. So we are waiting to have another meeting.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
Reverend C.B. Moss remains in hospital in critical condition after collapsing during the Majority Rule Day church service on Tuesday at St. Agnes Anglican Church. A statement says Reverend Moss's family had an opportunity to consult with medical professionals charged with his care. A senior doctor on Reverend Moss's medical team said, remarkably, by the grace of God, he is soldiering on and showing positive response to tests and treatments given. Reverend Moss remains in a medically induced coma, according to the statement. Although he is critically ill, the family says it's confident that the healthcare professionals assigned to him will provide the necessary care to achieve the best outcome. His family also says it appreciates the outpouring of love and support and asks those who know the virtue of prayer to continue to pray for him. When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world as the annual celebration of Carnival returns to one Caribbean country for the first time since 2020. Plus, COVID cases in China ballooned to 900 million, the latest from the country's COVID wave. Plus, the debut single of the 2021 Collect Platinum Challenge is released. Marlena Leonard has the exclusive interview with the new star. That story straight ahead when Our News continues. This is Our News. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. Some 900 million people in China have been infected with the coronavirus as of 11th of January. It's according to a study by Peking University. The report estimates that 64% of the country's population has the virus. It ranks Gansu province, where 91% of the people are reported to be infected, at the top. China has stopped providing daily COVID statistics since abandoning zero COVID measures. Ex-head of the Chinese Center for Disease Control saying the peak of China's COVID wave is expected to last 2 to 3 months. U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says Congress should investigate revelations that President Joe Biden kept classified documents at his private residence. McCarthy telling reporters the discoveries demonstrated the Biden administration's hypocrisy with regards to similar revelations about former President Donald Trump. The discoveries have presented legal and political headaches for Biden as he prepares for an expected 2024 re-election campaign in the upcoming months.
I think Congress has to investigate this. Here's an individual that's been in office for more than 40 years. Here's an individual that sat on 60 Minutes that was so concerned about President Trump's documents locked in behind, and now we find it just as a vice president keeping it for years out in the open in different locations. I do not think any American believes that justice should not be equal to all. And we found from this administration what happened before every single election, whatever comes out that they utilize to try to falsify it, they try to have different standards for their own beliefs, that doesn't work in America.
British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says he's concerned about the potential impact of Scotland's new gender reforms on other areas of the UK. Controversial reforms, which are expected to come into force later this year, lower the age that people can apply for a gender recognition certificate from 18 to 16. They also remove the need for a medical diagnosis of gender dysphoria. The Prime Minister said government was taking advice on the implications of the reforms, but did not say whether Westminster would seek to block the legislation. Musician and the only daughter of rock and roll legend Elvis Presley, Lisa Marie, died on Thursday after her mother said she was rushed to a Los Angeles area hospital. TMZ reports the 54-year-old suffered cardiac arrest in her home in the Los Angeles suburbs of Calabasas. Lisa Marie and her mother attended the Golden Globe ceremony in Beverly Hills, where Austin Butler won Best Actor in a Drama Film for his leading role in last year's Elvis biopic. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva says security force members were complicit in letting an anti-government mob ransack the seat of power in Brasilia. Thousands of demonstrators calling for a military coup to oust Lula and restore Jair Bolsonaro to power stormed the Supreme Court, Congress, and the presidential palace on Sunday, leaving a trail of smashed windows, furniture, computers, and artwork. The police force responsible for public security in Brazil's capital did not stop the mob advancing on the building, and some were seen in social media images taking selfies and chatting with demonstrators. And finally, Trinidadian Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley says there are no plans to cancel Carnival or introduce lockdown restrictions similar to what was implemented in 2020 following a recent increase in COVID-19 cases. During a media briefing at the Diplomatic Center on Thursday, Dr. Rowley said there's no need to close the country's borders as the relevant variants of concern have already been detected within the country. Dr. Rowley says while there's no need to panic just yet, the public must pay attention, be responsible, and practice health and safety protocols. He said what's important is that the most vulnerable populations follow health protocols and get vaccinated. Still to come on Our News Today in History, interesting facts about the day that was January 13th and the 2015 death of a British investor, property developer, and philanthropist. Plus, Greg is back with your extended weather forecast. And then in Our News at 7:30, the winner of the 2021 Collect Platinum Challenge talks about the journey to the debut of his first music video. The exclusive interview when Our News continues. Welcome back to Our News. It's time now to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was January 13th. Take a look. On this this day in Bahamian history, in 2006, the Compliant Angler Hotel in Alistown, Bimini was destroyed by fire. The historical landmark also housed the Hemingway Museum, named after American author Ernest Hemingway, who made it his residence from 1935 to 1937. Hemingway penned the novel To Have and Have Not during this period. The Bahamas Historical Society notes that one person died in the fire. Julian Brown, a former Olympian in the 1960s and whose family owned the hotel, is said to have rescued one guest who was still inside before trying to extinguish the fire. Then in 2015, British investor, property developer, football club owner and philanthropist Jack Arnold Hayward died at the age of 91. Hayward was instrumental in the development of the city of Freeport on Grand Bahama from the 1950s as co-chairman of the Grand Bahama Port Authority. The GBPA operates the Free Trade Zone under special powers conferred by the government under the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. The Sir Jack Hayward High School in Freeport was named after him in 1998. In 2016, the Grand Bahama Highway Bridge was also renamed in his honor. All right, to watch that again and for all of today's top stories, be sure and visit ournews.bs. And remember, you can share your favorite stories right from the Our News Facebook page. That does it for us in News at 7. Joining us now, Natalia Hall. She's got the latest headlines. Natalia, I saw the story that you were working on with the kid, a 4-year-old who was in that accident, terrible accident.
Terrible accident. A story that's really sad. The grandmother looking to get some sort of resolution with that issue. So
yeah, I'm looking forward.
We'll hear more during the 7:30 hour.
All right.
All right, Ken. And we are still following that police probe involving former cabinet minister Lanisha Roll. And we have the latest, the story of a family now looking for answers after their son was badly injured.
First tonight on Our News Live at 7:30, the latest on a former cabinet minister who was questioned by police. And a family seeks answers after a 4-year-old is left with broken bones following a traffic accident. And what more can be done for the Grand Bahama judicial system? The Bar Association president speaks out. And later, tertiary educators hope to sign the first industrial agreement with BTVI soon. Our News Live at 7:30 starts in a moment.
Welcome to Our News and thank you for joining us. I'm Natalia Hall. Our News has been reliably informed that former Youth, Sports and Culture Minister Lanisha Roll, along with her husband, Von Tenken Roll, have been released from the Criminal Investigation Department, pending further investigations. The pair was being questioned by police for 3 days this week. We also understand that a special unit at police headquarters is handling the investigation. Now, earlier this week, Commissioner of Police Clayton Fernandez confirmed that the couple was being questioned, but would not confirm what the investigation focused on. The Commissioner did, however, reference reports circulating in the media. We are told the police probe reportedly stems from allegations made about Roll during her tenure as minister. The former Seabreeze MP resigned from cabinet in 2021. Rumors are now circulating that former Marco City Member of Parliament Greg Moss is set to be sworn in as Supreme Court Justice. Well, we put that question to Chief Justice Sir Ian Winder this morning following the opening of the legal year in Grand Bahama.
As I indicated when I gave my opening address, we make an official statement as to who all 5 judges are, including the judge for Grand Bahama. And that process will come very shortly. We'll indicate who. And as I indicated, that judge is expected to take office on the 1st of May.
Moss served as MP under the former PLP administration. He also formed the United Democratic Party back in 2015. Winder says the addition of the new Supreme Court judge in Grand Bahama will assist with relieving the backlog in cases there.
Backlogs are all around, and certainly the reason for additional judges is because the workload in Grand Bahama requires an additional judge, both on the criminal side to assist Justice Forbes, and both on the civil side to assist Justice Hannah Adley. So the need for a 3rd judge will try and help us with the backlog situation, and we look forward to reaping some rewards from that this year.
While a grandmother is seeking answers after a birthday party ended in tragedy. Levita Thurston says her 4-year-old grandson was left with broken bones after he was allegedly hit by a car. Tonight, she's telling her side of the story.
They did not show concern for that little baby.
That's Levita Thurston, the grandmother of 4-year-old Carter Maycock, describing the day she says changed their lives. Thurston claims that on September 18th, Carter attempted to cross the street after playing in a bouncing castle while at a birthday party at her home. She says that's when a car sped through Palmetto Avenue, knocking him down and leaving him severely injured.
My first response was to get my grandson to the hospital because
Thurston says those are the cries from little Carter when he was first released from hospital. The accident left Carter with 2 broken bones, a dislocated shoulder, and he now needs a caretaker. She says the family did not hear back from the man who hit her grandson, which prompted her to visit his home.
I said, if you haven't killed before, you have the tendency to kill because you knocked down a 4-year-old child and you did not look back to see if he was okay or what was going on with him. His reaction to me and response was, I was waiting to see when I get some money to come and check little man out. I asked him, who asked you for any money? That is not a dog. Even if it was a dog, you should have turned back to check.
And to add insult to injury, she says the driver's family asks what they can do to help. Thurston says she asked for them to pay for the caretaker, which they did not do.
Wheelchair. We had to get a lazy boy chair.
Thurston claims the traffic report has her 4-year-old grandson listed as the person responsible for the accident as a careless pedestrian.
I'm asking the powers to be to bring justice for my grandson.
And as for Carter's condition now?
They just took the cast off November the 22nd. Now I'm trying to get a psychiatrist to talk with him because he's doing things that he was not doing before.
A teen in Bimini is in custody tonight after he was found with marijuana. Police arrested the 19-year-old man from Billytown after mobile patrol officers saw him acting suspiciously near a business in that community. Officers searched the teen and found a quantity of suspected marijuana on him. Now the weight and value were unknown up to airtime. Police also investigating the circumstances surrounding a 30-year-old man who was brutally stabbed. Now, the incident reportedly occurred around 8 a.m. on Wednesday. Police say that's when the man was driving on Golden Isles Road and Cowpen Road when he was beckoned by the bloody victim to assist him after he was stabbed. While the Good Samaritan motorist took the victim to a nearby clinic where he was later transported to PMH via EMS personnel where he remains in stable condition. Now investigations are continuing. While pleasant conditions in the capital heading into the weekend, meteorologist Greg Thompson joins us live from the Weather Center with a look at our current conditions. Good evening, Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Natalia, and good evening, everybody. Of course, we are watching a cold front that's pushing into the northwest Bahamas. The showers are falling apart, the front is weakening, but some really cool air mass is expected behind that. Right now, outside our studios, 77 degrees with a few clouds. Your winds out of the west-southwest at 18 miles per hour, so the winds have picked up. Feels like 74 degrees on the outside, all due to the winds that we are having on the outside. Temperatures around the islands right now, it's 70 in Freeport, 73 in Marsh Harbour, Abaco, 74 in Alistown, Bimini, over in Great Harbour, 75, 76 in Governor's Harbour, and we also pick up 75 in Nicholstown. Central Bahamas, temperatures are in the mid-70s there with 75 in Kemps Bay, Arthurstown, Cat Island, Georgetown, and Deadman's Key, all at 76, 73 in Coburn Town, San Salvador, with a few showers nearby. And into the southeast Bahamas, 78 in Duncantown, Ragged Island. We pick up a pair of 77s in Colonel Hill, Crooked Island, Delectable Bay. Abrams Bay, 78. Matthewtown, Inagua, 79, and our neighbors to the southeast, Turks and Caicos Islands, you guys are 76 at this hour. Satellite view, front boundary with some showers and isolated thunderstorms now pushing off the Florida coast, moving into the northwest Bahamas. As I mentioned, that front is basically falling apart. We will see some isolated showers as it passes through the capital by about midnight, but behind that, high pressure is going to be building in. We're looking at some very chilly temperatures expected across the northwest Bahamas, Grand Bahama, Abaco, and the Bimini area as well. You guys are actually going to see some temperatures into the 50s later on tonight. That's your first look at weather. Stick with us. A look at your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, when will terminated gaming board employees get a date for reinstatement? New details tonight. And the Progressive Liberal Party has paid off the controversial Bermuda trip. The press secretary updates the media. And later we will tell you how Reverend C.B. Moss is doing days after he collapsed during Majority Rule Day celebrations. That's coming up when Our News returns.
A day at the beach nearly turned deadly for a 34-year-old woman after she was found submerged in waters of the Sea Aquarium located in Stanley Key, Exuma. Police say the incident occurred shortly after 1 p.m. on Thursday. Now, the Chinese national was rescued from the water and taken to the Stanley Key Clinic for initial medical attention, and she was later airlifted to New Providence, where she is in hospital in stable condition. Well, Bar Association President Khalil Parker saying more can be done to address the needs of the judiciary in Grand Bahama. His comments came following the opening of the legal year in Grand Bahama this morning. Parker says while his members are doing their best, more is needed to ease the access to the judiciary in Grand Bahama.
My members in Grand Bahama are very industrious. The judges and magistrates and registrars in Grand Bahama are very industrious. They're making the most. The tribunal itself is also industrious. We compliment them. That's why we come down to be with them today. But obviously more could be done. And I think the provision of virtual access to services in New Providence will ease the ability of those in Grand Bahama to access the full extent of the judicial offerings. But for my part, I say that we're making the best of what we have, but we also want more.
Officials from the Union of Tertiary Educators of the Bahamas hoping to sign the first industrial agreement with the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute soon. Our Jamila Mizik tells us more in this report.
Negotiations between the Union of Tertiary Educators of the Bahamas and the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute began back in September 2022, and union officials are hoping they can put ink to paper sooner rather than later. UTEP President Daniel Thompson says they've recently met with the board of directors at BTVI regarding their industrial agreement, specifically the remuneration package for their members, but they have reached an impasse.
We anticipate that though we would have reached this impasse, we are confident that solace and solution will and must be brought by the administration towards workers here.
Thompson says their hope is to change the current salary structure for BTVI workers.
So you'll find that many of our faculty members are on short-term contracts. Some of them have been for years on 1 year, 2 year contracts as opposed to having permanence. So the remuneration package that we are advocating is one to bring the remuneration in line or similar to that of the University of the Bahamas or other quasi-government organizations.
Lead negotiator for the industrial agreement between UTEP and BTVI, Karima Smith, is hoping for a speedy resolve to their issues.
It is our students who prepare your nails, who prepare your clothing and fashion, who construct your homes, who've gone on to be electricians and plumbers. And I dare say, if they don't study welding, and if they don't study what it is to be an AC technician, then you are hot, you can't survive in your 90-degree weather, and you sure as hell can't flush your toilet bowl. So tell me, which educators are more essential? We play a major role. We are not rejects. We want you to put some respect on TVET.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
Still ahead, the debut single of the 2021 Click Platinum Challenge is released. Our Marlena Leonard has the exclusive interview with the new star. And you may want to pull out a sweater this weekend as temperatures are set to dip. Your extended weather forecast is coming up when Our News continues.
This is Our News. Welcome back. Ongoing water challenges in Central Eleuthera have prompted the island's MP to intervene. Just last month, residents in Central Eleuthera went without water for days as the island experienced a week-long water outage. But area MP Clay Sweeting says the issue has since been rectified.
Since December, we've had good water service there for the past month. So I'm happy to report that we've been able to, the Ministry of Works and the Water and Sewage Corporation has fixed the situation for now, and hopefully as we continue to monitor and fix whatever issues are still lying, that will continue with a good service.
New Providence basketball is back from the holiday break. A local soccer league begins a new season, and Coach Yo and the Rebels remain undefeated. Tage Adderley is back with a check on sports.
Hello, Italia. Good evening and welcome to Our Sports. I'm Tage Adderley. NPBA basketball is back with a doubleheader tonight. PFA Soccer begins its 2023 season this weekend, and Coach Yo and the Rebels beat the Georgia Bulldogs to remain undefeated in the SEC. Let's take a look. NPBA basketball is back tonight after a holiday break. Division II action should be happening right now with the Cybertech Blue Marlins taking on the YES Giants. The Division I game is scheduled for 8 with the UB Mingos playing the Caro Contractors Shockers. All games take place at the AF Adderley Gym. The Bahamas Football Association's 2023 season kicks off with a whole slate of matches this weekend at the Roscoe A. Davies Field. Baja Juniors FC under-18 squad should be playing Renegades FC right now, followed by Dynamo FC and Cavalier FC under-18s. Action resumes tomorrow with the under-15s girl doubleheader at 9 a.m. and a women's doubleheader at 5 p.m. The weekend concludes on Sunday with the men's doubleheader at 4:30 p.m. And finally, Coach Olette McPhee-McEwen and the Ole Miss Lady Rebels steamrolled the University of Georgia Bulldogs 66-58 last night. With the win, the Rebels' record improves to 16-2. They're also undefeated in their conference with a 5-0 record. And that's your look at sports. I'm Tage Adderley.
Still ahead, the debut single of the 2021 Collect Platinum Challenge is released. Our Marlena Leonard has an exclusive interview with the new star. And you may want to pull out a sweater this weekend as temperatures are set to dip. Your extended weather forecast is coming up when Our News continues. Welcome back to Our News. Temperatures may dip into the 60s tomorrow. Greg is back with your extended weather forecast. Well, Greg, these are the temperatures that I've been asking for from last year. So I took out my sweater, my boots, my scarf.
You got a taste of it when you went home.
Went to Freeport.
Go now. Yeah, it's going to get really chilly across the extreme northern islands. Florida is expecting, actually, South Florida is expecting 40s. So if they're going to get 40s, Grand Bahama is likely to receive very near the 50-degree mark, possibly even just above the 50-degree mark. But the winds are going to make it feel a lot colder because we're expecting 20 to 30 knot winds, and that's going to be pumping in a lot of cold air mass across us.
Can we expect any snow?
I'll have to put in the thoughts to the man upstairs and make sure. He's willing. But yeah, you mentioned the cold air mass that is coming, and we expect that to start in earnest by tonight into the extreme northern islands, Grand Bahama, Bimini, as well as the Abacos. As that short distance between Florida and those islands, they're going to get the first taste of it, and it will eventually make it down here across the capital later on throughout Saturday. And as I said, the winds are going to be very strong. They're going to be gusting up to 30 knots, possibly even the gale force across the extreme northern islands. So boaters, beachgoers, they're out of the water. Your boaters, we're asking you all to remain in port, especially in the northwest Bahamas, and that carries on into the central Bahamas as well. Frontal boundary now weakening as it pushes into the northwest Bahamas. Not much in terms of any showers and clouds with it, but most of the energy is now out to the east of us. But that strong high pressure behind will definitely continue to pump some very cold air mass across the islands throughout Saturday and into Sunday. Sunday is likely to be the coldest as the winds start to fall off a little bit, and we start to get the real core of that cold air across those islands. But that high will continue to dominate our weather into next week, and it looks as though we're going to have a very nice week. Conditions would be rather sunny. The winds expected to fall off by Tuesday, and then we expect temperatures to start to climb back up near the 80-degree mark. Future forecast showing the frontal boundary now moving into the northern Bahamas. As I mentioned, that's going to fall apart. This here is actually false return. That's basically some stratus cloud, but nothing is going to be happening behind that frontal boundary as it continues to push towards. And by the early part of next week, quiet across area, not much in terms of any clouds or any significant weather. If you plan on doing any boating, as I said, stay in port. Boaters, small craft remain in port. Beachgoers, we're asking you to remain in port, remain on shore as well. West to northwest winds at 20 to 25 knots, gusting to near gale force across the extreme northern islands. Sea is going to be very rough, 5 to 8 feet, but they will be up to 12 feet offshore, so that's going to make it for some hazardous beaching and boating. Tide is presently low. It will be high at 23 minutes past midnight. For the southeast Bahamas, caution flag for you guys down there. The winds will start off southwest to westerly, but once the front gets down into that location by tomorrow afternoon and into Sunday, we expect the winds to switch around northwest to north, and they will be picking up in speed. Very rough seas running at 4 to 6 feet over open waters. Here's a look now at your national forecast. And in your 7-day forecast, breezy conditions tomorrow. That will carry into Sunday, but by early part of next week, those winds expected to fall off. Loads of sun, but look at the temperature tomorrow. We expect that to be here in the capital, very near the 70-degree mark. And of course, the northern islands, Grand Bahama, you guys, you're looking at low 60s. So yeah, it's going to be a very cold weekend.
Hey, I see 67 degrees.
That's here in the capital now, not in Freeport.
So in Freeport, we should expect
63, 64.
Freeport,
and it's going to feel colder because of the winds.
Wow. Yeah. All right, and how are you going to spend your weekend with this cold weather, Greg?
In bed. I'm going to stay away from the cold air and stay inside. Yeah.
All right, Greg, thanks so much. Well, a major, one of the country's biggest up-and-coming artists released his latest single called Don't Settle today. The winner of the Click's 2021 Platinum Challenge almost did not enter the competition at all. In an exclusive interview with our Marlena Leonard, Major tells us how he went from writer's block to the winner's podium. Here's his story.
When I see what I want, I don't fake. I don't do no stopping up, I want it and I take. Tell me where you wanna go and maybe it's a day.
A Major's newest single released today. The video for the song titled Don't Settle was shot in Toronto, sponsored and produced by Click, and well received by guests at the song's release party Thursday night at Unwind. But all of this almost didn't happen. Major tells us the story of when his sister first shared the contest with him in the midst of his years-long creative dry spell.
She tagged me in the post that Click had and said that I should try it out. And at first I wasn't really too fond about it, but eventually I said, you know what? I got up out of bed and I realized that one of the casting was that same day, and I just auditioned.
And Major would go on to win that contest, a feat he says helped reignite his drive to pursue music seriously. His prize? $5,000 and a music video, fully sponsored by Click. Here's what he has to tell us about his new single.
I wanted to make a feel-good song. I wanted to make something that was fun. I wanted to not write something, and that's what inspired this. I wanted to do something that just felt good to me.
And although the music video was shot in Canada, Major tells us...
So the production, Big Vezzy, he's Bahamian born and raised, Lovato Stubbs, Kung Boy Films, Bahamian, Freddie Seymour, Got Sticks, Bahamian, everything, I'm Bahamian. Yeah, but it's a whole Bahamian team that put this together.
You can listen to Don't Settle on most streaming platforms and keep an eye on Click's social media platforms for the next chance to compete in their Platinum Challenge. Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
All right, and congrats to A Major. I love to see it. All Bahamians working hard. Thanks for that, Marlena. And to watch that and any of today's top stories, they are all available now at ournews.bs. And remember, you can share all of your favorite stories right from the Our News Bahamas Facebook page. Thank you for joining us for Our News Tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.